Welcome to Technovation. I'm your host, Peter High. Our broadcast today comes from our most recent Metis Strategy Digital Symposium. The topic is digital acceleration and innovation in times of uncertainty. And the interviewees are Debra King, the Senior Vice President, Chief Information Officer, and Chief Transformation Officer of Corteva Agriscience, and Jim Swanson, Executive Vice President and Enterprise CIO of Johnson & Johnson. The gentleman who led the conversation was Metis Strategy's Vice President and Head of our East Coast office, Alex Kraus, who joins me now. Alex, welcome.
Thank you, Peter.
Well, as I mentioned, Alex, what a salient topic, digital acceleration and innovation during times of uncertainty. As we would certainly say to the many people that we interact with on a day-to-day basis, there's great risk during times of uncertainty of turning off the nozzle towards innovation. In some ways, these are times really to make sure that you keep the water flowing and those ideas coming. But I would love to understand from your perspective, the rationale and the context for this conversation at a time like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Peter, first, we have seen so many data points and evidence that there has been no greater digital acceleration than what we're seeing related to the current pandemic and the essentially virtual world across business and personal lives. I think that makes it very relevant. What I found most interesting, and that's what the two panelists talk about, is that it's not just digital capabilities, but it's business capabilities, more broadly speaking, that have received a lot of attention and that many organizations have been able to mature significantly. And I personally believe, and we're beginning to see some evidence about that some of those capabilities, including the capability to innovate, we will see the lasting effects well beyond the end of the pandemic, whenever that will be. So I think we're really seeing a transformation on so many fronts. And the two panelists speak very well about evidence from their organizations.
Well, let's talk about that. I mentioned it's Debra King from Corteva Agriscience and Jim Swanson from J&J, the two people you spoke with in these conversations. Talk in brief, we'll hear it at length momentarily, but talk in brief, if you would, about how they personify the trend you just described.
No, absolutely. And I'm not telling anything new, but Johnson & Johnson is most notably involved in the vaccine efforts. But what I find notably very important is that Jim and his team have been able, despite the focus on the vaccine efforts, to really advance capabilities across the organizations, specifically as far as customers and other stakeholders are concerned. People centricity, not just customers, but also employees of Johnson & Johnson received a lot of attention, and the digital capabilities on top of that are really amazing to see how they flourished. Debra, on the other hand, she talks about how when everything shut down, the one group of their customers could not stop working, and those are the farmers. We still needed to eat. We still needed to procure the produce that the farmers produce, and they really found new ways to leverage technology, data, and insights that Debra, her team, and Corteva provided to make that happen. So I cannot think of two better organizations to speak about that.
Well, that's great. What a great overview. Thank you so much, Alex. Without further ado, digital acceleration and innovation in times of uncertainty, featuring Debra King of Corteva Agriscience, Jim Swanson of Johnson & Johnson, in conversation with Metis Strategy's Alex Kraus.
Wonderful. So let me introduce quickly Debra King and Jim Swanson. Debra is the SVP, Chief Information and Transformation Officer for Corteva Agriscience. Corteva was previously a division of Dow DuPont and became an independent company in 2019 with 22,000 employees in 23 countries. It's the only global pure-play agriculture company in the industry. And Debra led the multi-year technology transformation efforts that enabled that successful spin-off of Corteva. And today, Debra leads the technology and digital strategy. And as Corteva puts it, for the benefit of enriching the lives of those who produce and those who consume. So essentially, many of us and certainly all of us as consumers. Also here is Jim Swanson. Jim is the EVP and Enterprise CIO for Johnson & Johnson. As many of you know, Johnson & Johnson is one of the world's largest companies and one of the oldest multinational companies across three business segments, including consumer, pharmaceuticals, and medical devices. They operate across 250 subsidiaries in 60 countries with over 130,000 employees. Jim came to Johnson & Johnson from Bayer Crop Science through the acquisition of DuPont, where he previously served as the CIO for several years. So Debra and Jim, welcome, and very excited to have you on this panel.
Thank you, Alex. Great to see you. And also, Jim, great to see you. Jim and I go way back.
Exactly. And Debra, you previously were in a similar industry and at your time at Pfizer. So I know you know each other's industry very well. We may actually come back to that later on. Debra, let me start with you. I've heard you previously describe Corteva as a $14 billion startup. Now, that's some startup. And I was wondering to what extent you are able at that scale and size to really maintain and leverage some of the characteristics that we typically associate with startups.
Well, Alex, I believe in a better future for all made possible through what I call technology for good. And at Corteva, for good means using technology to help feed the world and create a sustainable future. So we help farmers thrive so the world can thrive. And when we were formed a few years ago in 2019, and up there ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange was just an amazing experience. My kids loved it. They got to tell everyone their mom was on TV. But it was the start of really being our own company. And how do you take a company that comes from the heritage of these two, Dow DuPont, longtime heritage old companies, and as Barbara said, with a treasure of data and systems, and actually become a nimble startup, because that's what we had to be. We had to create our own culture and our own way of servicing our customer, who's the farmer. We help farmers thrive, the world thrives. So from the beginning, we started with what we call execute to win. We needed to instill an ownership mindset, which is really what's pivotal in a startup, and also this can-do attitude. So this execute to win program was really about giving opportunity for anybody at any level in the company to come up with an idea and to execute it. And we as an executive leadership team were completely on board in steering this and governing it, and also helping to make sure that we removed roadblocks, that people had resources to do what they do. We met every single week in order to help our people do what they do best. So that was a commitment from the leadership team to help create that kind of ownership culture. And then from a technology standpoint, because we had to create something new, we were able to really leapfrog, right? Go from these old heritage environments to a pure cloud environment wherever we could, and have that agility and scalability. And one example I'll give, because I'm sure many people on this call have gone through, many M&A type scenarios. Having a TSA, an agreement with a prior company to manage your systems really limits your ability to be agile. And so a big goal of ours was to make sure that we had ownership of all the systems we needed to run our business on day one. And so we had a very aggressive shift to the cloud strategy. So by the time we spun, and it was day one, we had ownership of all of our systems in the cloud, and that gave us tremendous business agility. So we were an old company, but a startup, and we needed to have that agility. And so the decisions you make from a technology standpoint along the way really play into how your ability to be able to be agile and have that startup. And then, it comes down to outcomes too. You mentioned our purpose, and it's to enrich the lives of those who produce and those who consume, ensuring progress for generations to come. And for us, that outcome means for our farmer, we're helping them be more productive. We're using data and AI to help them grow more food on less and less land to feed more and more people. And technology is the only way that we're going to be able to help them do that. And we take data from drones and satellites, weather data, sensors in the ground, and we use it to help farmers understand the best time to plant, to irrigate, to apply treatment, to harvest. And without that technology, we're not going to be able to have that kind of sustainable future. Everything we do today not just has to work and be a great product and help our customers, but it also has to be sustainable. And so having that ownership mindset and the focus on the outcomes from our purpose really helps us do that. And every day we have 20,000 people around the world waking up for that purpose and to achieve those outcomes.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing all these insights. And it's so great that you were able to maintain that and build on that and continue to build on that. Wonderful. Jim, I wanted to turn over to you. Obviously, Johnson & Johnson is in the news quite a bit because you're one of the key manufacturers of the vaccine. But what I found remarkable as well is when we spoke that despite what seems to be this laser focus on one very important piece of what J&J does, you were able to advance a lot of important aspects across the agenda. And you shared with us previously how you thought about this as the 4 pillars. And I was wondering, for the benefit of the audience, if you wouldn't mind explaining a little bit what you are able to do under this 4-pillar approach.
So let me start with the mission of J&J, because I think you got to anchor there first. If you think about what we're trying to do, mission of J&J is to transform the trajectory of human health. It's not just to improve human health. How do you change it? How do you evolve it? How do you make sure the patient is the center of everything you do and you're providing life-saving medicines or orthopedics or vision care or consumer goods and consumer products? That really is the anchor and core of the company. And then as I look at the pillar for the technology organization, which I lead, I'm emboldened by the fact technology can shape the future of healthcare by unlocking the power of people, technology, and insight. So that's our purpose statement that we created to align to the mission. Now, within that, we created these 4 pillars of work within the technology organization, but also into the broader company. It really helps us drive that purpose and that mission. The first one is around accelerating business outcomes or business value. So really understanding what is those key critical programs that will drive high value. It might be digital surgery in medical devices. It'll be personalized medicine with cancer therapy in pharmaceuticals or vaccines. It'll be a best-in-class consumer intimacy with brands and products and consumer health. So understanding the business value, the outcome, and that outcome is shared by the whole company, not just by the technology function of the business. We share the same outcome. So that's the first pillar. The second pillar is tied into our strategy of growing the digital acumen of 135,000 employees. So think about skills and talent. As I shape my organization and I shape J&J, how do we become future ready? Embracing technologies and skills so that we can actually leverage that with business expertise and domain. So we've done a lot of good work there around mapping our skills, understanding what's future ready, build in experiences and events so people can build on those skills, tie them to outcomes. So you can start to see this great link of technology tied to a business outcome with the skills you need to drive it for the future. So that's the second pillar. The third pillar is based on high-performing teams. How do you build a high-performing team that's a diverse team of multiple skill sets, user experience experts, software engineers, business domain experts, product managers, product owners, cybersecurity, et cetera. And that high-performing team is all tied to the same outcome you want to drive with the right skills and talent. So we've done a lot of work around building high-performing teams across our consumer health, our medical devices, our pharmaceuticals, as well as our corporate functions. And those are combined teams, business and technology together. And the fourth pillar is around really building both customer and people centricity. So customer at the focus. So think design thinking, think everything you're doing for the outcome of the customer, but also the employee experience. So what you're doing to create a frictionless environment within your company, but also interactions outside your company. It's not just with customers. It could be with partners, providers, suppliers that actually help shape the great experience from a customer perspective. So all 4 of those have really come together. Each one is important on its own, but they only work when you combine it. And as I've tried to describe how you put talent into an outcome with high-performing teams with customer at the center, that combination has really accelerated our ability to have really sustainable impact to the mission of transforming the trajectory of human health.
That's pretty remarkable, and it's interesting. Both of you have already alluded to agility, nimbleness, and also future readiness is what you call it, Jim. We talked about future proofing and also being resilient. Debra, maybe you can start. So what aspects of agility and resilience do you think are those that you say were really shaped by the environment of uncertainty and the dynamics that we still experience every day?
Mm-hmm. We've heard already today about the incredible things that have been done despite the unbelievable challenge and difficulty and really terrible situation we found ourselves in with the pandemic. The innovation that has come out of it is astounding. And I don't think anyone would have predicted that up front. So for example, Jim is at J&J. We developed a vaccine in less than a year. And that amazing lipstick machine, which by the way, I want, I'm sure that was developed, partly through the pandemic, and everyone kind of bounced back. And you have to look and say, what caused that and how do we do that better? And, for me, resiliency is about preparation. It's building the muscle to be ready for the heavy lift. And then agility is being able to pivot when that heavy lift comes. And either way, you have to be prepared for it. And there are going to be scenarios you've anticipated and scenarios you haven't. So I'll give an example that has both a professional and a personal bent to it. So when we were building IT for Corteva, new company had lots of opportunities to do things a certain way. And we went for that resiliency. So it was all about putting things in the cloud, making them scalable, infrastructure upgrades. You never know where you're going to need that, but we did that assessment. We did, we made sure that we had what we needed. a very agile operating model within IT to be able to partner with the business and respond when business needs change. Bringing in strong talent, Jim talked about people, it's critical. Having a change management function. So there's the building of technology, and then there's making sure the business knows how to use it. So I've always, for years and years, had a change management function within IT, which is not always so typical, but to me is critical to being able to be agile, because if you have stuff that could be used to help in a situation, but nobody knows how to use that stuff, it's not really going to help you. And then there's also that aspect of having a very strong cyber program to keep things, secure and to protect us throughout. So when the pandemic hit, we were actually ready. So we were very early. It was, less than a year after we became an independent company, and we had these heritage infrastructures. We were working across these infrastructures, but now we had our own, and we were able to just flip the switch. It was seamless. So to me, that's the agility. We built the resilience, so we were able to be agile. And it was really a seamless transition. And the business, frankly, couldn't believe it because it had been such a short period. And I was very proud of the team and what they were able to do. But that's the agility. And then on a personal side, when we were building all this resilience into technology, I wasn't thinking about it from a personal standpoint. But in the middle of the pandemic, not related to the pandemic, but I had to be out on medical leave for a short period of time. And I was able to step out, and everything just ran because we had the operating model, I had the talent, I had everything. So, you never know what the situation is going to be. And that's true in life, and that's true in business. You don't know what challenges are going to come your way, and you have to be ready. So it's preparation, and then being agile because you've prepared so well.
Yeah, thank you. And I like how you described the muscle that will be there for the next task that is at hand. Jim, we unfortunately have little time left and so much more to discuss. But I wonder if there's a few aspects that you can highlight in terms of things that you think you developed, you found that are here to stay to create greater resilience for J&J.
I think continuing to embed technology in all that we do and reimagining business processes, reimagining how your company shows up. Debra and I have a shared background both in the pharma space and in agriculture. And one of the learnings I had moving into a different sector was what's possible, and then taking that learning and apply it somewhere else. So reimagining how agriculture was done when I was at Monsanto was a great learning when I went back to healthcare, because I was there previously, at what's possible to reimagine. So we've taken a lot around technology, data science, embedded into the core of how we operate. And it's not just for customer experience. We're reimagining how we formulate products in consumer health. So as an example, we have an Aveeno skincare app where it takes a picture of your face, it gives you a complexion in real time, and then what's the best product that matches to that Aveeno skincare product line that will best support you. And by the way, that also gives us a feedback loop around what is our customers' needs. So you start changing your formulations, you get better insights around product that's real time that meets the needs. When I think about in the physician space, the acceleration of COVID around telehealth and telemedicine, we are actually able to distribute much more globally scientific insights and care for patients through telehealth, telemedicine than ever before. It's not that technology was new, but COVID created an environment where people then accepted and adopted that technology. We're doing AR and VR to help train surgeons 8 times faster how to do orthopedics in the best way. We're giving them imagery and video imagery with AI and ML, how to perform the best surgical procedure based on thousands of procedures that have been adapted over time. We're accelerating trial enrollment through AI and doing digital twinning, which allowed us to improve our batch production of vaccines 4 times, from 1 batch every 2 weeks to 2 batches every half week. And when you think about the acceleration to get a safe vaccine in the marketplace, you need all of these technologies. And what's been amazing is the organization, the company, has really learned through this awful pandemic that we can actually transform human health in very different ways by applying and embedding technology with our great science, with our great reputation, with our great ethics, with our great focus on people, with our global reach. And again, taking the duality of my agricultural background, science and IP-based company with a mission of feeding the world, as Debra has correctly highlighted, the science or healthcare background, which is treating patients in the best way possible to improve health and outcomes. Science and data and technology are cornerstones to achieving those really, really important global missions in both industries and even broader.
This is amazing. I feel, unfortunately, there's no way we can do all of these things justice. I hope there's a follow-up conversation that we can have. But as we need to wrap up, unfortunately, I really want to thank you Debra and Jim, thank you again. Thank you for your leadership, but also thank you and your organizations for really making this very difficult situation so much better, feeding people, making sure people are fed, and making sure that our health remains a priority. In that spirit, again, thank you, best of luck, and looking forward to reconnect soon.
Great connecting with Debra. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.